Hello everyone, welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for joining me, keeping me company as usual. Thank you so much for subscribing and giving the video a thumbs up, sharing, and all the things that you do to make the message that we have here spread so that people can understand what is going on and hear things from a different perspective. If you have not yet subscribed, please consider doing so. Also, please leave your comments, and if you like the video, please consider giving the video a thumbs up. Now, I continue with the series from Mr. Rattigan's program last Saturday because some very revealing things came out. So I'm going to bring you now some more of what was said on that program. You're going to hear now from Mr. President, and he has some very revealing things to say. And I want you to listen good and make comments about what you think he's saying, right? Because, clearly he's trying to appeal to their supporters who have angst with them about this money thing. And it's affecting them because you've heard them saying that the donations have fallen off dramatically, apparently, and there are some who are demanding their monies back. So this program was designed to tell the people what happened, as Rattigan would say, and Mr. President is making his appeal. But in his appeal, he has made some very interesting statements. And the statement that I want you to listen to was when he said that he had asked the others, which would have been Francis and Herb Nelson and Rupert Francis, for information that they apparently need. So no matter what you hear Rattigan is saying, they clearly must have been relying on the other groups, which he claimed that don't have no organization and don't have no traction, is basically what he's saying. But yet they need information in order to carry on their business from that group. And listen to what Prezi said the response from the other groups were, which is the call to action and the Jamaica, what did I want name? Global Jamaica Diaspora Council, I think, right? And the other task force that is Herb Nelson's. Let's listen.
I'm coming right back to this book I led from earlier, The Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. It is important. On page 29, it talks about the chapter 11, propaganda. Kevin, it goes deeper than just, I am so sorry that my phone was on silent. My apologies. But part of what it says propaganda has done more to defeat the good intentions of races and nations than even open warfare. Propaganda is a method and a medium used by organized peoples to convert others against their will. We, the Negro race, are suffering more than any other race in the world from propaganda. Propaganda to destroy our hopes, our ambitions, and our confidence in self. Now, me understand how some of you guys probably feel, because honestly, I miss Herb and I miss Dr. Francis too, and others from the call to action. As you guys know, everybody came in as a band of brothers to do good things for the cause of Jamaica and for the people and the future of Jamaica. But just like pretty much a lot of things, there are many examples we can use when our people, when Black people are given the opportunity to do something to advance self, to advance hope and ambition, we always seem to crumble or implode based on internal struggles and misalignment of values or purpose or intent or something. They call it probably barrel mentality, but I don't know what it is, but it seemed to happen too often. But I believe that this is a generation that will do something about that. And yes, I understand how it look, how it feel to know that the government of Jamaica and all of them who started watching 30 minutes ago, I'm watching the numbers. I see you guys just come on because you guys come for the drama. You want drama? We can't give you drama. But we won't dignify you with that. We're talking to the people who truly love and want to see the best for the OJLDF. No, I can't imagine how you feel. Like we can't do nothing good. It's like the one thing where you see guys that take on some traction, you say, yeah, this looks like the right team. We finally find a group of people who are going to take the fight to a corrupt government. And yes, I'm going to stand with them. And then boom, all of a sudden, it seems like there's internal fighting and we are put them and tear down each other, and then you hold the head and you're confused. Like I said, we can't do nothing. It's like the way you feel right now. You're so disappointed to see all of where I'm going. It hurt you. But I promise you it hurt us more. Because you're not the one who spend countless hours strategizing with these brothers. You're not the one who spend countless hours working and planning and putting things together to present to you hope and a path forward. But if you're feeling like that, multiply that by as many levels as you want to. But it is deep, it's painful. I watch people in the team, including Will and myself, we pretty much almost brought to tears just to see the kind of vitriol that is coming out of the mouth and the kind of response. You know, when we reach out to them for information to, handle internal business, they're like, nope, we're not going to provide you that information. We're trying to talk about, just making this thing smooth, and like, nope, not interested. That hurts. And especially when you have confidence in people that you trust. I told you last week, one of my favorite Psalms, it talks about if it was an enemy, you could have didn't bear it. But when it's somebody that you take fellowship with, somebody that you were close to, that do you this, it hurts. And I'm hurting. And I know you're hurting. But there is hope. So I'm going to close by saying this. That yes, maybe you're right. Maybe Will is too accessible, is making himself too accessible to anybody and all people. Maybe, we just believe that it's just one big yard and the whole way under the tree, and we just try a reason to make things better. And we just want to just be among with people. But maybe there should be some differentiation, there should be some separation, maybe. But I want to tell you this. I believe that the strategy to hold government accountable, to bring awareness and highlighting a lot of the madness and the corruption in a non-political way is very, 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 very crucial to good governance. It's very, very crucial to have people holding these people accountable, because it's an absence of accountability that will cause these problems. The absence of accountability that allow this thing to perpetuate for so long. And also, as I said, finally, I've also resigned from the call to action. I believe that the call to action and the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council, right now where their vision is not currently aligned with where my vision is. Their main reason, this issue within the faction, integrity and alignment, the best interest of the council, and the desire for a fresh start, but also focus on other endeavors. they want to go to other countries. I mean, we'll go and we'll demonstrate, but they want to build out infrastructure in other countries and establish things that, we're not there. And I think the focus right now is to build out the OJLDF, is to build out this machine that is going to take the fight to corrupt government and for every administration. And this thing's supposed to outlast us. As I said, my goal and desire, and I'm sure most of the team was to have Dr. Rupert Francis retire with dignity and honor and establish his legacy, and also Herb Nelson at their age. Because these guys have put in the fight, they've put in the work over the years, and now when it's time for us to really find and place them in a good position in the foundation to really solidify their legacy, their focus and priorities are something and somewhere else. But as for us, as for me, and this team, I believe our goal is to take the fight to corrupt government and continue pursuing your best interests. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. I yield back to Will.
And thank you, Mas Prezi. The pleasure was all mine. Now you say some very interesting things. Not necessarily a Will Rattigan, who is, very, very informative, but you said some interesting things too. Not least of all was your reference to the absence of accountability, and that will be our topic today. Because you began by speaking about propaganda and how, as Black people, propaganda has held us back. And we keep allowing ourselves to have other people manipulate us, because that is what propaganda is intended to do. It is intended to get a certain result, and somehow people have been able to get the certain results from us. Now, I guess you wouldn't say so, but I hope you don't mind if I say so myself, that is precisely what you and your band of brothers, of traitors, were trying to do to the people of this country. You were out there spreading propaganda. Not true? Weren't you trying to manipulate the people in order to get a certain result? What precisely, though, were you intending? Because you said it's non-political. But how can it be non-political when you're talking about a government, holding government to account? Now, the government, is the cabinet. That's really what government is. And I'm going to be reading something for you listeners so you can understand just the kind of propaganda that these people have been spreading on this country. Not them alone, but they are acting as if they are the opposition party in Jamaica in the House of Parliament. So for now, let me remind everyone of what he said, because he said some very critical things. And when you hear what he said and when I dissect it for you, you will realize just who it is that is out there trying to use propaganda to defeat the Black people of this country. Now, he said, maybe we believe that it's just one big yard and the whole away under the tree, and we just try reason to make things better. But I want to tell you this. I believe that the strategy to hold government accountable, to bring awareness and highlighting a lot of the madness and the corruption in a non-political way is very, very, very crucial to good governance. Is very, very crucial to have people holding these people accountable, because it's an absence of accountability that will cause these problems. The absence of accountability that allowed these things to be perpetuated for so long. And I suppose he's talking about the problems in Jamaica. Now, I have this to say to you, Mr. President, and you, Mr. Rattigan, and Mr. Stewie. Uno no live here. Uno don't live here, uno don't know nothing about the country, and I don't think uno even know anything about how anything works. You are over there playing a political game but pretending you're not. You all have no clue whatsoever as to how government work in this country. So I am going to take you to school today. So just as Mr. Stew is paying very close attention here, please pay attention. And then we shall all see if what you have been telling people about accountability and holding government accountable, and that there is no accountability and that there is no good governance in Jamaica. Let us examine the facts. Not propaganda, no, facts. And see if what it is that you have been telling the people, collecting the money, telling the people that you're going to do this, that, and the other, including march on the country, because there is no accountability and there is no good governance. We are going to check now to see if what you're saying is true. Or is it you who are spreading the propaganda to keep down the black people of this country? So yesterday, while I was searching for something online, I buck up these people. They're called IPU Perlin. The IPU means Inter-Parliamentary Union, and they are for Democracy for All. They are based in Switzerland. And what they do, they collect, it says here, Parlin Global Data on National Parliaments, a free resource with over 600 data points provided directly by national parliaments on their structure, composition, working methods, and activities. Now, Mr. Rattigan and your other wasters, I recommend you to go and visit this page, and you may learn something. But you don't have to, because I'm bringing information to you. But if you want to confirm, go right ahead and check it out for yourselves. So here we are. It says Jamaica House of Representatives, Parliamentary Oversight. You hear that? Parliamentary Oversight. And they said they are comparing the data for parliamentary chambers in the oversight module. Now, there are 9 topics we're going to be going through quickly. They begin with the political system, accountability, oversight over the actions of the government administration, budgetary oversight, oversight of the implementation of the budget and of government spending, oversight over foreign policy, oversight over national defense policy, state of emergency, verification of the constitutionality and the application of laws. So we're going to go through it, and when they explain, you're going to understand the Jamaican political structure perfectly. No misunderstanding. And I know that some persons really don't understand how it works because the parliamentarians really don't explain. So I'm going to be reading this for you because, it's extremely fine print. So they're talking about the parliamentary name. It's called Parliament. The structure of the Parliament is what is known as bicameral, meaning it's a two-party structure. The chamber name, it's called the House of Representatives. That's where the MPs sit. And the related chamber for bicameral parliaments is the Senate. So they talk about the political system now. They say the type of political regime, it's a parliamentary constitutional monarchy, because we have the king in England as head of state. All right, so they have the notes. So they are saying, so what all this mean now, this parliamentary constitutional monarchy? Listen carefully. They said the executive power of the Commonwealth of Jamaica. Apparently, that's how we name. You see, notice I put Commonwealth in capital C. So apparently, our actual name is Commonwealth of Jamaica. The executive power of the Commonwealth of Jamaica is vested in the Queen Elizabeth II as head of state and exercised through her representative, the Governor General, and they refer to the section of the Constitution, Section 68. However, the Governor General now holds a symbolic post only, right? Him just sign things into law and him appoint people who are recommended to him by either the Prime Minister or the various services commission. You understand? Great. Now they go on to say, head of the executive, the Prime Minister. So the executive power, the head of state is King Charles. The head of the executive is the Prime Minister. And we're going to read what that is now. More notes. In practice, executive powers, which is the Prime Minister's power, right? Because he's the head of the executive. In practice, executive power is exercised on advice of the cabinet, where a Prime Minister functions as the head of the executive. You hear that? So he pick him cabinet and him and the cabinet sit down and them advise him. So each minister would advise him and say, Prime Minister, we think that this is what should be done, and so on. The party or coalition of parties, meaning that if you should have a third party that win a few seats, and you like happening elsewhere in the world where you have multiple parties, you win seats, you don't get the majority of more than 50% of the seats in the parliament, then you will have a coalition government. So that's what they're referring to, but we don't have that here because we don't have no third party that strong. Anyway, they say the party or coalition of parties commanding a majority in the House of Representatives become the government. We all know that. And provides the ministers, right? Ministers don't come from the opposition, only from the party that has the majority in the House. The cabinet is I want you to listen to this, The cabinet is the principal instrument of policy and is charged with the general direction and control of the government. Right? So let us recap. You have the head of state, which is King Charles. You have the head of the executive, which is the Prime Minister. He has a cabinet which advises him. And that cabinet is the principal instrument of policy and is charged with the general direction and control of the government. So them run things. Not the opposition, not none of we out here. But we can influence them, right? That's the structure. They go on to say in the margin, method for appointing the executive. Now, remember the executive is the Prime Minister and the cabinet. It says here, the Governor General is appointed at Her Majesty's pleasure on the advice of the Prime Minister. So technically speaking, Mark Golding said I'm going to be the next Prime Minister, and based upon for him ways and how he run the PNP. If we can't get rid of him before then, and you're not fool enough to put him there, which he's hoping, right? He can write to King Charles, inform him that he would like to recommend somebody else, maybe one of his risers, to be Governor General. It goes on to say, whenever the Governor General has occasion to appoint a Prime Minister, he or she appoints the member of the House of Representatives who is best able to command the confidence of a majority of the members of that House, and appoints from among the members of the two chambers such number of other ministers as the Prime Minister may advise. And that is Section 70 of the Constitution. So how does the Governor General carry out this function? I believe the convention is that the members of Parliament on both sides of the House, they would write to the Governor General stating who it is that they have confidence in to be Prime Minister and the opposition leader. Once the Prime Minister is appointed, he then recommends to the Governor General his choice of appointees of ministers for various named ministries. Next, we have in the margin term of office of the executive and coincidence with the term of the legislature. It says the term of office of the Prime Minister normally coincides with the term of the legislature. And the legislature, by the way, is the Parliament of the members of Parliament and senators. A new prime minister is named after each general election to be held at least once every 5 years. Notwithstanding, a new prime minister may be appointed every time a vacancy arises. So you got that, right? So the next point is under the heading incompatibility of the functions of a member of the executive and a member of parliament. Are there inconsistency between them? And they are saying no, there are no incompatibility between the functions of the MP and the functions of the minister. And here's why. It says all ministers must be parliamentarians. The Prime Minister and Minister of Finance must be members of the House of Representatives. They must be MPs. So with Nigel Clark going, the next Minister of Finance would have to come from either the 48 members of Parliament on the government side remaining, or they bring in Minister of Finance through either South Trelawney or the seat that Nigel is vacating. So the next three questions ask dissolution of Parliament. Yes, Parliament can be dissolved. The circumstances and modalities are. Now, in the dissolution of the Parliament before the end of its term is done by the Governor General on the advice of the Prime Minister. So that is when the Prime Minister can call an election. That's what we call it, right? It's called dissolution of Parliament. Now, the dissolution of Parliament may occur for the calling of a general election prior to the end of the term, or if there is a vote of no confidence in the government. In the latter case, the Prime Minister may request within 3 days after consultation with the Governor General that the Governor General dissolve the Parliament instead of revoking the Prime Minister's appointment. Over the past 22 years, from 1990 to 2012, the Parliament was dissolved 5 times for the holding of general election. Right? So you hear that? You see how we can get rid of government? All right, no confidence. And the Governor General would appoint somebody else that the government side said they want to be Prime Minister. However, the Prime Minister can preempt all of that by simply asking the Governor General to call a new election, and then get rid of those dissidents and bring in new ones. That's how that works. But then again, the dissidents can have the last laugh, because if they have the support of the party, all they have to do is remove him as the head of the party, and then that's the end of that. So now that you understand the structure of the government, the executive, now I should also explain to you that in the government side, you have the Prime Minister, the ministers. But remember, the other persons who are not ministers, they are known as backbenchers. And with those backbenchers and the opposition, as well as the senators, both government and opposition, they will always be in the majority. So whenever the executive come with a policy, which is usually in the form of them introducing regulations or laws in order to fulfill the policies that they promise the people in their manifestos, it is the backbenchers on the government side, the opposition and the senators who are going to look at the legislation. They're going to debate it, putting them to penceworth, what them think should be taken out, what them think should be modified, and so on, until they get it right. Because there's no point in passing laws that are going to be overturned by the court. So they try to get it right, and once they get it right, then they pass it for the Governor General to sign it into law, and then it is gazetted, and that's when the law now becomes effective. So you see how that works. So let us now go to accountability. The question of accountability is now being asked by the Swiss Parliamentary Watch, I guess we can call them. And we are going to now see if indeed there is no accountability at all of the executive, according to all these people that say they are acting on your behalf, including some local people. But you know, them have a right to chat anything they want to chat. Them pay them taxes, all right? So let's read on. So in yellow, in the top left, you see the word accountability. Question is asked, is there any accountability in government in Jamaica? Let's see how it works. If there's any, let's see how it works. All right, so they say accountability of government to Parliament. The government, remember, is the cabinet and the prime minister. That's the government. And they're asking, is there any accountability of the government to Parliament, those backbenchers, right? And the opposition as well as the senators. And you hear what they said? Yes. You see that? Y-E-S, yes. Is there any accountability of government to Parliament? And the answer, according to the Swiss group, is yes. And they go on to explain what that accountability is of the prime minister, no matter which one is there, and the cabinet to the parliamentarians. They go on to say, the cabinet is let me remind you now, the cabinet is the principal instrument of policy and is charged with the general direction and control of the government. It is therefore collectively responsible to the Parliament. For those of you old enough, you usually hear Perkins talk about collective responsibility. That is why that if you're in the cabinet and you disagree with any policy the government is coming with, you have no choice and no other choice other than to resign, because it is collective responsibility. You can't say, well, me never did agree with it, but since no, you're responsible. That is the principle on which our democracy is based. It's collective responsibility. That's why you find that all of them on the PMP on the opposition side would agree with something that the opposition leader comes with or anybody else, and the other side agrees with whatever the government side is coming. That's how that works, right? Then they go on to say modalities of oversight. You hear that? What oversight mean? So what is oversight in management? Because that is what they're referring to. In other words, oversight or watchful care is a safety net to ensure the following. Due diligence takes place before key decisions are made. Mean them do them homework. Policies and strategies are being implemented as intended. Key risks are identified, monitored, and mitigated. Business processes and systems are working well. Well, it's not business really, it's government. So you hear what it is that oversight means? Great, let us continue now. So now we come to the modalities of oversight. How does this oversight thing work in the accountability process? One such way is in oral and written questions of parliamentarians, and they go on to explain what that is. Parliamentarians may put questions to the government for oral or written response. Questions may only give rise to a debate where a substantive motion is moved on the issue on which the question was asked. So that is one method of accountability. The parliamentarians, any one of them, can ask the minister to explain something. And it happens all the time. And you hear the parliamentarians on the opposition side complaining that them ask this question from when and them not getting any response. But it's not like they can't do anything about it. If it is important enough, them can come call we and we go for a march and raise backside. And none of them since 1999, no government, no want no demonstration in this country, because they learn them lesson. So they do have those frustrations, but it is there. Questions are asked, and we have heard the ministers coming back with answers. So that's one mode of oversight. The next mode of oversight is the government reports to Parliament. Let's read what that is. Annual reports have to be submitted to the Parliament on the performance of all public bodies. That's, who does that? The Auditor General. These reports include audited accounts and other information on the financial performance of these bodies. The reports are tabled for information, but there are no votes taken on them. However, members who wish to raise matters of particular concern in respect of these bodies may put questions to the relevant minister or move substantive motions for debate, and matters may also be referred to special selected committees for study and report. Now, those same people who are spreading propaganda that they claim that other people spreading to keep down black people, they are the ones who out there talking about $1.7 trillion missing. Yes, it was from one of the oversight bodies of government that report was created, and that's the Auditor General. She has a constitutional office and she cannot be removed. She can only retire or resign from that position, right? So they're using reports that are tabled in the Parliament to cost the government and then turn around and tell you that there is no accountability in government. So there are some measures now. These are another form of accountability. It says vote of confidence on government programs and or legislative proposals. Now let's see what they are saying here. The government's accountability to the Parliament can be brought into play in the legislative procedure. All legislation must be passed by both chambers, and the legislation they are talking about are bills that are brought before the House to be debated and voted on and passed, right? So all legislation must be passed by both chambers. Section 64 of the Constitution provides for the dissolution of the Parliament if, by the affirmative vote of a majority of all its members, the House of Representatives has resolved that it has no confidence in the government. That's a big accountability measure there, which occurs in every parliament. It's just that we don't use it. Well, the PMP did try it with Bruce Golding, and the government side voted it down. But that is a big accountability process there, right? Now, it goes on to say now, motions of censures and votes of no confidence sub-report. And the circumstances that would bring that about now, motions of censure, right? They go on to say, there are no specific constitutional provisions detailing under which circumstances a motion of censure may be tabled. And it says section 71 of the Constitution. So it's provided for, but the circumstances weren't set. So it's either the parliamentarians are going to determine that or some law. And I do recall that you see, if you're going to the parliament, go tell some lie and then find out, they can move a motion to censor you. If you go into parliament and bring the parliament into disrepute by some fashion or another, they can move a censor motion. We have seen that moved in the past, right? Most of the time it failed when it comes to the government side because they have the majority. But then you have public opinion, which also is a form of accountability. And you do have elections in Jamaica, and that is the biggest accountability there can be, right? But let us continue. Now, what would be the modality now of motions of censure and votes of no confidence? It says the House of Representatives, which is where the MPs are, can table a motion to revoke the appointment of the Prime Minister or to proceed with a vote of no confidence against the entire government, which will be the Prime Minister and his cabinet, right? Both resolutions have to receive the affirmative vote of a majority of all the members of the House. And of course, we have never seen it happen before in Jamaica, where the government side is going to vote against their own executive. But it is there in law. Can't say we don't have it. It is there. We just don't utilize it because the circumstances never call for it. So what are the consequences? If the House of Representatives has resolved that the appointment of the Prime Minister ought to be revoked. The Governor General revokes his or her appointment. Alternatively, the Governor General consults with the Prime Minister, and if the Prime Minister within 3 days so requests, the Governor General dissolves Parliament instead of revoking the appointment. You understand how that works? In the case of a vote of no confidence, the Governor General dissolves the Parliament. During the period 2000 to 2012, 5 motions of censure were tabled in the House. That's what I'm saying? All right, that's the parliamentarians holding each other accountable. And they are the ones who are providing the oversight for their own actions and actions of their members. All right? Now, it says now dismissal and or impeachment of government and other public officials, sub-report. Circumstances and persons concerned. Well, I don't know if we have no impeachment, but let me read how this one works here. It says, the clerks and deputy clerks of both chambers, that's the lower house and the Senate. Section 47, paragraph 5 of the Constitution. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Section 96, a Judge of the Supreme Court, and the Auditor General may be removed from office for inability to discharge the functions of their office arising from infirmity of body or mind or any other cause or for misbehavior. But guess what? They have to go through one tribunal. The government can't just decide, say, all right, Auditor General, I don't like where you're going with. You know, I'm going with me, I move you. Or DPP, I don't like where you're going with. No, they can't do it. They have to have a tribunal that's set up, and they have to, it's like a trial. And the circumstances of whatever it is that they bring in to say why the person should be removed would have to be ventilated. So nobody try that, right? And the officers really have, from ever since, from independence, as far as I know, they have all carried out their duties responsibly. So except for when Bruce Golding did not want Wayne Vassiani, remember Wayne Vassiani from the MDM that did criticize him, the Public Service Commission had appointed him Solicitor General, and Bruce didn't want it. And them determined, say, is him the best man for the job? And Bruce said, well, I don't want him. And them say, yeah, but we had the power to appoint, not you. And so he decided to write to the Governor General to have them all dismissed for what he called misbehavior. I think they carried him close to court, and I'm not sure if it had actually been adjudicated, but certainly they had settled. I think they get some money for it. But that was one case from independence where the office of the Prime Minister was misused in a fashion in order to circumvent the Service Commission to remove somebody who was appointed that he did not want. It hasn't happened since. And it was quite an embarrassment. So all of these positions that were mentioned, the clerks of both houses, the DPP, the judge, the Auditor General, they have what is known as tenure. Once they're appointed, they cannot be removed until they reach the retirement age, or they choose to resign, or they die. All right? Now, it goes on to say now, modalities and procedure for removing these persons. So notice, that they had said impeachment. That is a term that they use, and they are saying the fact that these persons who have tenure can be removed under circumstances is a form of impeachment. You understand? So how do you go about removing these persons? It says the clerks and deputy clerks of both chambers are removed from office by the Governor General if a resolution of the House has received the affirmative vote of not less than 2/3 of all the members thereof. So both the opposition and the government will have to agree. So they will have to do something real bad. The Director of Public Prosecutions and the Auditor General are removed from office by the Governor General if the question of their removal has been referred to a tribunal and the tribunal has recommended to the Governor General that they ought to be removed. Then you have the judges of the Supreme Court, and this, by the way, also is applicable to the judges of the Court of Appeal if my memory serves me right. So let me read what it says, how they can be, the modalities for removing them. A judge of the Supreme Court is removed from office by the Governor General by instrument under the Broad Seal if the question of the removal of that judge from office has been referred by Her Majesty to the Judicial Committee of Her Majesty's Privy Council. That's the one in England, the Privy Council that just rule in favor of Vibes Cartel, the MCM one, or any other enactment enabling Her Majesty in that behalf, and the Judicial Committee has advised Her Majesty that the judge ought to be removed. You see how hard it is to remove the judge once they're appointed? That now names on serious tenure. So those judges, no matter which one of the government they were appointed under, they don't have to pay them fululups mine after that. And this is now how you prevent them from feeling beholden to whoever it is that appoint them, right? They have tenure, and that's the whole idea in them being independent, right? Good. Now, consequences of impeachment. It says the person concerned by the dismissal procedure can be removed from office. Nobody was removed from office from 1990 to 2012. And to my certain knowledge, there was a judge, but I believe, if I remember correctly, that she was a RM judge, a resident magistrate, Van Horn. You remember that judge that was charged for corruption? I believe her name was Van Horn, and I believe, and anybody who knows of the case who can say otherwise, can you remind us, please? I do believe that she was a RM judge. So her removal would have been, might be a little different, but maybe follow a similar procedure. All right, so let's move on. So far, we've seen that even impeachment is in our Constitution. It just doesn't go by the name impeachment. It has other names, which basically is how it is you can remove these people once you appoint them. And that is a impeachment procedure. Now we come to the matter of oversight. Is there any oversight of the government? Right? We need to find that out, and we need to bear something in mind. Our job as citizens is to elect the member of parliament who sits in the parliament to make laws on our behalf. They must carry out whatever it is that they promised in their manifesto. And whenever they try to, yes, the opposition sometimes will balk and say, no, this no balking or BALK. And say, no, this is not right. This is against the Constitution. This is, depriving people of their rights or what have you. That is what they are supposed to do. They are supposed to make sure that our rights are being protected while the government carrying out these policies. And any oversight or any accountability has to come from within the parliament itself. That is where the power is, and that is where the power is being exercised. So when you talk about accountability, we can only make them accountable when we vote, right? And also when the opposition bring it to our attention that they're doing something that is not right, and them explain, and we listen, and the government come and say, no, and explain, and we listen, and then we make up our mind and say, all right, this is how it's going to go. Generally, they listen because they know that that's going to mean they might lose some votes. Sometimes they don't because they think it's the right thing they're doing, and they put it in, hoping that we'll see that what they are coming with is indeed in our best interest. So the oversight and the accountability has to come from within the halls of power, where the powers are being exercised on our behalf. They are the only ones that are acting on our behalf. Not anybody else that we never elected, and certainly not anybody from foreign. Now, let's go and see now what they say now. Oversight over the actions of the government administration. And remember, the government is the Prime Minister and the ministers. So let's see if there's any oversight. It says, oversight over the actions of the government and administration. That's a question, and the answer is yes. yes. So they are saying that our structure of government has accountability mechanisms. Yes, was that response? Has oversight mechanisms? And the answer is yes. Let's see how it is carried out. It says the cabinet is the principal, I have to keep reminding us. The cabinet is the principal instrument of policy and is charged with the general direction and control of government. It is therefore collectively responsible to the parliament. Means and modalities of oversight. All right. So how is the oversight carried out in the parliament? It says hearings in committees. So you hear all them PAAC and PAC and all of them committees. That is how the actions of the executive is scrutinized by the parliamentarians. All right. So let's read on. So the hearings in committees, the parliament exercises oversight over the actions of the government administration by holding hearings in committees. The parliament's committee system ensures that there is accountability in the management of public entities and in public expenditure. Reports from committees may be brought before the House of Representatives. So you hear that. So we can't go in at the parliament, go hold nobody accountable. We can only make up a whole heap of noise and demonstrate if need be. But in the halls of power, where power is exercised in the parliament, there are committees that look at what government does and what it is that the committee do. Then ball it out. If they have questions about this, you have the committees. And you have questions about something. They call in the Auditor General and questioner. They call in the public body, like for example NHT, and ask them questions about expenditures out of many or whatever it is. They call the DBJ. That is how the committee works. They call in these public bodies and the various segments of the ministry, even permanent secretaries of ministries. Ministers have to come before them and answer questions. And they're asking those questions for our benefit. We must know, public opinion is now going to say, hold on here, but you're not going good. That is oversight. As opposed to a situation where they could be doing anything that they want and there's nobody to ask them any questions and there's nobody to look at what it is that they are doing. Them just spending and just doing as they please. That doesn't happen in Jamaica. You hear that, Mr. Rattigan? That does not happen in Jamaica. I don't even know if the United States it does what we do here. And if they do, the question I ask you now, Mr. Rattigan, Mr. Prezi, and Mr. Stewie, do you consider the United States system of government an accountable government, where they call in people and ask them questions about their stewardship? Do you? Because if you do, then how can you be talking about we don't have an accountable system when it's a similar system that we are operating here? Except in the appointments, we have various services commission which vet the persons who are then recommended to the Governor General for appointments. So I think that I've done enough to show you, my fellow Jamaicans, subscribers, and my listeners, that there is an accountability system here in Jamaica, just like it is in the United States. Probably even more here than there. It's just a different system in terms of the appointments. But when it comes to calling in the Prime Minister and calling in the ministers, calling in the public bodies, anywhere at all in the government service, the parliamentary committees can call them in. They have to come in because they can be subpoenaed as well. And as a matter of fact, to show you how these people are stupid, all of these corruptions that they are talking about, how the government is corrupt, where you think it's coming from? Where you think the information is coming from that is giving them all this fodder to talk about the corrupt government and then going to be fighting on corrupt one? It is coming out of the parliament and the parliamentary system. The accountability and the oversight system of our parliament is what is providing all this information about the goings-ons of government. So we know that things now go right. That is how it's brought. So how can you now talk about your whole government accountable when the parliamentary system is doing just that and bringing us information, right? Now, insofar as the prosecution now of the allegations of corruption, that's a different story. And all of that have to do with the courage of the persons who have the power to prosecute. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me, keeping me company. Thank you for your patience, for liking the video, sharing, subscribing, and leaving your comments. Until next time, you take very good care of yourself and walk good.